My name is Aaron Sagers, and today I'm going to be talking about the Unexplained interview. And this is brought to you by ParanormalPopCulture.com, which is, well, it's my own website, so I can honestly say I'm bringing it to you. So let's dive in, shall we? First off, who am I? Who is this guy? Why should you be listening to me? I launched the website ParanormalPopCulture.com. In 2009, I've appeared on the Sci-Fi Network, on the Today Show, The Shocking Truth on Reels, Paranormal Paparazzi, Paranormal Challenge, Paranormal Lockdown Evidence Revealed, and currently on Travel Channel's Paranormal Caught on Camera. As a journalist, that's really where I've received my training. I have written for CNN, Chicago Tribune, LA Times. I've appeared in the New York Times, Philadelphia Inquirer, been on Coast to Coast, MSNBC, NPR, across the board. These days, I do write a lot about entertainment. I've written about travel, and I also write extensively about the paranormal, and specifically paranormal pop culture, the cross-section of entertainment and the unexplained. However, I did go to school for journalism. I taught at NYU as an adjunct professor in journalism. And some of the tips that I learned in J school, how to cover a crime beat, how to cover court reporting, things like that. Those are tools, those are tactics that I did apply in my career, and they are things that I continue to utilize as a reporter and as a journalist now, even whether it's on camera for print or written articles or even at live events. A lot of the tips that I'm going to be passing along to you today are applicable. So let's move on to the next slide. Oh, that's just some photos of some things that I've done. I've been fortunate to interview a range of people, from Stan Lee to Norman Reedus to the Back to the Future cast, and a lot of the tactics of interviewing that I apply to celebrities also works to someone that has experienced something, or even to, unfortunately, sometimes people that have been victims of crimes. Slight differences depending on the context, but some of the core tips apply. Okay, so let's just highlight this. What is the point of an interview? Well, an interview, the idea is to obtain information, to explain an event, to tell a story, and also to focus on a person. It's not a matter of just wanting to believe. It's wanting to document. It's wanting to report. Those are necessary goals to have in mind as a reporter. Now, and as a journalist on an interview, but also even as a researcher. So the questions that you're going to be asking during an interview are questions that information, and a lot of times it's based on a theme that the reporter has in mind, and that theme is established even before an interview. However, if a more important theme, or if the narrative somewhat shifts throughout that interview, as a reporter, as an interviewer, you have to be able to develop it. You have to be able to roll with the punches, and some of these tips do come from the Columbia Journalism School. So these are tips that journalists would follow, but also applicable to researchers. Okay, very first set of information is about researching. And this is incredibly important. Now, good interviews really follow the 2 P's. It's persistence and preparation. So basically, you want to show up to any interview with way more information than you actually need, or more than you actually think you're going to need. And let's highlight this right here. You want to approach a situation with a large frame of reference, which you can start doing now. You can start reading right now. Know the material, know the types of sightings, related to this particular setting. Trust your knowledge, but remain open-minded. And for those of you that are picking this up in the background, I am actually recording this in New York City, so you might hear some sirens on occasion. So that's actually a tip we're going to get to as well, as far as distractions and things that are happening in the background. But yes, start reading now and move beyond Wikipedia. Read as much as you can. Keep up on the news. Wikipedia is a great resource, but it's only the beginning of a great resource. You have to follow those links through and make certain that whatever Wikipedia is saying is actually corroborated by the originating source. And is it a trusted source? Beyond that, look at local history. Look at folklore in a location. Look up other sightings that have been mentioned in a certain location, whether it's across the board, whether we're talking about cryptids, UFOs, or even ghost reportings. What is the local reporting? What is the sightings? What are the local folklore? Also, look into things such as weather reports, police reports. What was the weather like on the day of the sighting? What did the police blotter say on the day of the sighting, or even days leading up to this phenomena? Also, research the witness itself. Now, don't be creepy. I don't want you to get too creepy about this, but when I say research the witness themselves, sure, you can do some look at their social media. You can look into the kind of work that they do. What kind of posts are they putting out there on social media? Anything that they talk about related to this particular phenomena or a series of phenomena. That's all good information for you to be looking up. But again, don't get too creepy. Don't move into internet stalker territory. We don't want that, but it's good to take a look at their social media and other things that are out there about this person. Keep in mind, the internet is a great resource. However, it is littered with so much incorrect information. So you need to be able to do some digging. And if there is a tale of phenomena, find out where this tale originated. Follow that source until you have dug as deep as you can, until you hit that bedrock. Even with historic sightings, there's a lot of or historic reports of sightings, there's a lot of incorrect information, there's a lot of conjecture, and there's a lot of urban legends. And you want to peel back the layers until you've uncovered enough information and you really have a concise thread to follow of information. Okay, so this next section is identifying. First off, it's very important if you are trying to set up an interview. Remember, persistence and preparation. Persistence, it may not always be easy to get that interview set up, but once you do, you want to identify yourself. Who are you? Are you a journalist? Are you a ufologist? Are you a paranormal investigator? What are you? Who are you representing? And also, where is this information going? Is it going to be reported on in a local newspaper? Is it going into a journal of sorts? Is it only for your own investigative needs to help you establish what kind of phenomena you want to investigate? Also, beyond that, how long do you need? Time is important, is an important commodity to people. So be specific with how much time you're going to need, how much time of theirs you're going to need. You must be mindful of their time. So half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. I will tell you that it's very difficult to get a lot of information in less than 15 minutes. It is possible. I've done it. I've done interviews even as short as 5 minutes. But the more information you can get, the better. Anything more than an hour, you have to have a really good reason for being there. So be mindful of their time. Also, you want to express the importance of telling their story. And when I say that, what I'm really trying to tell you is emphasize why this story matters. Now, this is a time for them to be heard, and it can assist in a larger investigation. And the community itself may want to know their story. You want to explain all these things. Also, you want to explain the concept of being on the record, off the record, and on background. And what that means is when you're on the record, you are using their direct quotes and their name. When they are off the record, no part of what they have said can be used, and allow them the ability to go off the record. It's not something we want. It can be quite inconvenient, but it is something that you want to make available to them. And then the other element is on background, which is when your interview subject is providing information that can indeed be instrumental and guide you, but you are not directly using them as part of a potential story. This is power, and it is power that you are giving them, and it is incredibly important that they have access to that power. These are your allies. This is not an adversarial relationship. Also, you never want to run at a person with a camera or an audio recorder. Think of it this way. It's sort of like if you just shove a recorder on someone's face, it turns them off. If you just bust out a smartphone or a camera and point it in their face, it is very off-putting. And oftentimes that could end your interview right there, right before it even begins. And it's just disrespectful. So let them know that you are going to be recording them. They probably already assume you're going to, but it is a matter of respect to give them the heads up that you're going to do it, and it begins now. Also, consider attribution. How are you going to identify them in whatever document that you are creating? This is important for credibility. So if they don't wish to have their first and last name attributed, which is ideal, which is what you want, ask them for first name and last initial, or maybe the town that they are from. I'm Aaron. I'm originally from Orlando, Florida, or Aaron from New York City. That is another way you can identify them. If they insist on anonymity, if you feel like you are going to grant them this, and this is worthwhile information, you can. However, you still document their name for your own records and to cover your bases. However, again, you don't wish to rush to offering an anonymous source. Typically in newspapers, there's at least 2 or even 3 people that know the name of an anonymous source before it is published. So if I was going to interview you and you wish to remain anonymous, I would still loop in my features editor and editor-in-chief, or 2 people in the chain of command above me. So that is how anonymous sourcing works. Not ideal, but sometimes it is necessary. Also, I do want to express that sometimes people say no, and you have to allow them to say no. If they decide that the interview is over, they decide that they don't want to talk, if they don't wish to be involved, accept that. However, what you can do is ask for other people that might be relevant that you could interview. So if they say no, still ask for other interview subjects. Oh, and one other note about the attribution. If they wish to remain anonymous, or even if they wish to list their entire name, think about how their title should be. Do they want to be listed as a survivor, an experiencer, a witness, an abductee? Allow them to come to a determination on how they wish to be titled. Empathy. I can't emphasize empathy enough. Now, when I say empathize, I want you to think about your own conversations. You're more likely to share with someone that you trust, and you are establishing rapport here. Now, you want to create a space that your interview subject feels safe in. Perhaps it is a certain room, or perhaps it's a certain chair. You want them to feel relaxed. Maybe you can even offer them a cup of tea. Avoid too many environmental distractions. So you heard that siren earlier. That can easily throw off an interview. So you want to avoid as many environmental distractions as possible to preserve focus. Now, the early stage of an interview is really the feeling out period, whether or not they can trust you, whether or not you believe what they are saying. So keep that in mind. Also, I want you to observe the space. And what that means is it's not even just for empathy, but pay attention to everything that's happening around you. So if this is an interview that's being conducted in their own home, take a look around. If you notice they have a certain kind of book, I have a lot of books and ornaments behind me. Take a look around. Take mental notes of this. If you notice they have a lot of certain kinds of books on hauntings, books on cryptozoology, if they have a lot of horror, or what kind of horror do they have? Is it all demonic tinged type of horror, Exorcist, Exorcism of Emily Rose, things like that. Make notes of that. What kind of artwork is hanging up around their space? What kind of physical media is around? Make a note of all these things. You can also express a shared interest, and this helps create rapport as well. I can't help but notice you're really into the X-Files. Love that show. You can use this to be a guide. This is going to help establish a visual reference guide for you as well. Show compassion. For a lot of people that have been through certain experiences, this can be quite difficult, even traumatic. So express that if they are shaken, that you are indeed sorry that they experienced this. So show that compassion. Be relatable. Express that if you have experienced something similar, you can say that. Tell them, I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I went through something similar. But do not get too in the weeds, and this is tricky. You can express that you've talked to a lot of people similar to them who have experienced similar such things, but don't make it about those people's story. Don't make it about your story. This is really about their story to tell. So keep that in mind. Also, don't tell them what you know. And what I mean by that is you don't have to put all the cards out on the table. You don't have to share that every bit of research or every other interview that you have conducted. So don't tell them everything you know. So also, when you're asking questions, ask a question and get out of the way. Do not become an obstacle to the response itself. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more in a minute. And then the other thing I would say is be affirming. Affirm that you want to tell their story. Affirm that you are there for them. Ultimately, create an environment where they feel they can say anything without fear of judgment or feeling crazy. And let's face it, a lot of people who have experienced unexplained phenomena, a lot of times, what's the first thing they say? They say, you're gonna think I'm crazy. So you want to make certain that you've created an environment where they know that you're not going to judge them and that they don't have to feel crazy. So relate, don't dominate, and create a space for sharing. Also, take a look at those nonverbals. Where are their eyes going as they speak? Nod your head in encouragement. Make note that they know that you're listening, that you're paying attention to what they are saying. And if they look like they are tuning out, make note of that and pull their focus back. Also, I would advise starting soft. You don't want to start with your hardest questions right up front. That's a good way to get people to throw up a barrier, and then you've lost them. So keep that in mind as well. Start soft, some softball, and then build. Okay. Well, if the last slide said we're ready to believe you with the Ghostbusters, this one has a photo of Spooky Mulder himself. Now, gotta love X-Files, gotta love Fox Mulder. However, when you're going into an interview, it is an interview and not an interrogation. So, guys, don't be a cop. Nothing wrong with cops, but this is not the job that you're setting out to do. This is not a perpetrator. They are not a criminal, and you are not the police. A lot of times people try to play these clever games of gotcha. So don't do that. Don't try to catch them in their own words and trip them up. Do prepare questions in advance. In fact, I would say have more questions than you possibly need, than more questions than you're possibly going to get to. And keep your top questions, your most important questions, at the top and get them ready to go. Since this is likely a time-sensitive question, you want to get those top hits out of the way first, or close to the first, after you've built that rapport with those softball questions. Be willing to break away from the questions. You know, sometimes people answer your next question before you even get to it. So obviously you're not going to be repetitive. And be willing to disregard questions if suddenly they're no longer relevant. You can even have questions that you know the answer to create supportive material, to corroborate what you already know. Don't interrupt. That's a good way to lose the thread, throw them off track, and maybe even shut them down. So don't follow a script. Prepare your questions in advance and listen. Now, this seems like an obvious one, right? Of course you're going to listen to an interviewee, but so many people don't do it. They do interrupt. They don't let people finish a thought. They get excited, and I understand this can be an exciting topic, but let them finish. Let them complete the sentence and listen to the words rather than just preparing for the next question. Listen to what they say. And again, you can even, in addition to nodding, you can allow people to feel listened to with your eyes. Keeping engagement, keeping that connection going is important. It helps establish that rapport as well and lets them know they are being listened to. And this is a trustworthy relationship right here. A couple other things I would add to that is, well, this is actually kind of a tricky one as far as notes or no. Now, once a recorder is set down, it is easier to forget about that recorder. And notes sometimes throw people off. If you're jotting down as they are speaking, they might become very self-conscious of that. So it's easier to forget about the recorder. People are a little bit more open in my experience. However, notes do feel tangible, and it allows you to keep good documentation. Make some mental notes. That's what I would advise. If you are able to, don't over-rely on writing notes down during the interview. That's going to come later. Also, the observations you made earlier can be put to good use here. If you've noticed, there's a lot of vintage flying saucer posters, for instance, on the wall. How is that influencing their visual language? How are they connecting to that? And how are they speaking in those terms? Also, I say leave room to breathe. Don't automatically dive into the next question. When you sense that your subject is saying something big or building up to something, let it hang in the air. Create a pregnant pause, which when that happens, most people fill with more information. We get uncomfortable with too much silence, so we fill. Don't make it creepy, though. Look engaged, look thoughtful, but don't jump to the next statement. After they finish that one statement, just let it hang there for a minute. They might add more. Mundane questions, those are also good. Getting details about the time of night that something happened, the weather, and you've at this point already checked the weather reports. What were they wearing? What did they have for dinner? These can seem disposable, but they can also corroborate and create a pattern. How did they sleep that night? Were they on any medications? How had their health been up until this moment of this experience? Also, think about external references. So time passes subjectively. There is the time that I feel as I am experiencing something. Moments of joy, moments of terror. That is a subjective passage of time. But objective time is the ticking of the clock, and that is very important. So, of course, you want to know how it feels to them, but you want to get that objective time as well. Ask if they check the clock before, during, or after this experience. Ask about any dialogue or sounds they may have picked up from a nearby TV or radio station, or what show may have even been on and what time slot that took place on. These are external references to establish time. And repetition. If you want further clarification, it's okay to ask someone to repeat something later on. This phrase, but you want to phrase it in a way that acknowledges the repetition. Sort of, I'm still wrapping my head around this, but can you tell me one more time about that, about the shape of that thing? So that's a good way to establish further clarification. Now, what to avoid? Questions to avoid are, simply put, what happened? Well, instead of asking what happened, opt for something more open or inviting. Can you walk me through this experience? Ask them for frames of reference. Never, ever ask, how do you feel, or how did it feel? This is a big blunder, and you see it a lot on broadcast TV. I mean, think about it. How do you feel? Well, I was abducted by aliens and stolen right out of my bedroom. I don't feel too great about that. That's not much information to work with. Instead, make it relatable so you don't shut the person down. Say, I know I can't precisely understand what you went through, but can you explain what that felt like? Can you walk me through your thoughts and emotions? What sensations or emotional responses did you experience? Don't ask yes or no questions. It's not always a waste. Sometimes it is useful for direct responses, but it also lacks color and details. Think about it. If you ask a yes or no question, you're going to get a yes or no response. Did the ghost punch you in the face? Yes. Okay, that doesn't leave us with a lot of room to build on. Also, avoid leading questions. You want facts, not overstatements. People may give you what they think you want. So vary between open-ended questions and sometimes closed-ended questions. Instead of saying, did it look like a cigar-shaped object? Perhaps you can say, can you explain the shape of what you saw? If you were to estimate its size, what would it be? Additionally, I say avoid self-fulfilling prophecies. Be well-researched. Keep your other notes in mind, but also stay open-minded. So that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Don't leap to a conclusion. Don't ask questions that only reaffirm your own assumptions. If you're looking for Men in Black and you're only leading questions down that path, then you might miss, I don't know, the Mothman. Also be aware of the word alleged. It's a tricky one, and it can imply to a person that they are lying. So when interviewing, don't make the mistakes of using statements that question your good faith in them. And also, I like this Tyrion Lannister quote, so I'm going to just throw that up there. A wise man once said that you should never believe a thing simply because you want to believe it. I find that to be incredibly useful. And this is just an example of a foregone conclusion. Sometimes we go looking for demons and we might miss the ghost that's right behind us as an investigator. Finally, after the interview, thank your subject. Ask them if there were any other, express gratitude for their participation. Ask again if there were any other witnesses or people that you could be directed to. Open the door for further recollection. And how do you do that? Give them a business card. Give them a way to contact you. And yes, notes right here. Immediately after this interview, immediately document everything you recall based on observations, cues, notes, and quotes that stood out. Listen to the audio or review the video as soon as you can afterwards as well. So really, these are just some basic opening tips for interviews. It doesn't cover everything connected to the vast art of the interview. Instead, just a beginner's guide, but by utilizing research, by having a curiosity and remaining open-minded, by having preparation and persistence and maintaining empathy, you will be in a good shape to collect a story and even collect some great research for whatever unexplained phenomena you are pursuing. All right, guys. Well, I am Aaron Sagers, and I would kindly say that if you want to reach out to me, you can find me at aaronsagers.com, at Aaron Sagers on Twitter and Instagram, and also you can catch me on Paranormal Caught on Camera on Travel Channel, and I am also the co-host of the Night America podcast. So wherever you may be, have a healthy and safe virtual expo.